for a kid? All right, good number. All right, I like it. So Godly Play is the curriculum that we use for our youngest Sunday school classes, but what people often don't know is that it is also used for older kids, teenagers, and even adults. And I think that the Godly Play stories from Advent, which is the season we find ourselves in, are my favorite for adults particularly. And that is why each week in Advent, our bulletin will have the same quote from Godly Play. And you'll be able to go back and read it. But here it is. Welcome to the season of Advent, when we are all getting ready for the mystery of Christmas. Sometimes people walk right through a mystery and do not even know it's there. This time of year, you will see people hurrying around in and out of stores, buying things and doing this and that, but they miss the mystery of Christmas. They don't know how to get ready to enter a mystery, or perhaps they've forgotten. The church learned a long time ago that people need a way to get ready to enter or even come close to a mystery like Christmas. And so the church sets aside 4 weeks to get ready. We need to get ready to come close to the mystery of Christmas so we don't miss it. Now that may seem strange to talk about missing Christmas when our culture certainly makes getting ready for it a commercial venture starting now back in September. We are trained to rush around, to decorate, to buy gifts, make lists, all in a frenzy leading up to the big day. But that, in the words of Godly Play, is missing the mystery of Christmas. And that's why I love that the church does something different during Advent and bids us to slow down. We do this visually by changing the colors to blue, lighting the Advent candles week by week, singing the Trisagion, that's the big word for the Holy God, Holy and Mighty, that we sing in the place of the Gloria. All of it is meant to help us breathe, pay attention, and get ready in a different way. So tradition holds that each Advent candle that we light is connected to a word. Does anyone know what word is associated with the first Sunday of Advent? Yell it out. Yell it out. It's hope. Hope. That was not a test. There's no reason to know that, but thought maybe somebody would. Now, hope is a word that we throw around rather casually these days. I hope my team wins the playoff game. I hope we get a snow day. I hope Trader Joe's has those mystery bag hats that I like to give away as presents. That was a personal one. In today's world, hope often means that we're not sure if something will or will not happen, but we sure hope it will. Hope, for us as people of faith, is a different sort of thing. When we say that we place our hope in God, we aren't crossing our fingers and hoping for the best, nor are we saying that we view God as untrustworthy or capricious. In fact, it's quite the opposite. In Hebrew, one of the words for hope, tavah, means to wait eagerly or to trust in. It's that feeling of knowing that something is going to happen, even if we don't know exactly when. Imagine the feeling you get when you're waiting for somebody to arrive at your house for the holidays, and you know they're coming, you might not know quite when, but you're excited and you know that it's going to happen. The prophets used this word when they remembered God's past faithfulness and waited for God's presence in the future, especially when things looked grim and when hope in the world around them was in short supply. Similarly, in the New Testament, the Greek word elpis means a confident expectation. So the hope of Advent is not childhood wishes about what might show up under the Christmas tree, but instead the deep, steady knowledge that God will break into the world as God has done before, tenderly, unexpectedly, in a small, vulnerable baby. The mystery of Christmas. We hope not for some far-off fantasy, but for the world we know is possible. The world that the baby Jesus grew into the man who proclaimed it. A world of healing, restoration, justice, and love. This morning's first reading from Isaiah speaks to that kind of hope. Isaiah imagines a world transformed into God's world, a hope and desire that is as relevant to us today as it was for the people in the 8th century BC kingdom of Judah. A world where instruments of war become tools for sustaining life. Do we still dare hope for a world where swords will be beaten into plowshares? And then there's our gospel lesson where Jesus bids us to keep awake. Now, I admit that at first glance, this gospel may not feel particularly hope-filled with its imagery of disruption and uncertainty and people being pulled away from one another. But Jesus is shaking us awake from complacency and saying, pay attention. Live your life as though each moment is precious. Live as the people you are capable of being, the hands and hearts and feet of Jesus, people who move through the world in love. This is not a call to anxious busyness or frantic preparation. It is more like that waking that happens after you've been asleep from a really good sleep. Deep, restorative rest, and you are now fully alert and fully able to be present. Now, these words of Jesus from the gospel this morning have sometimes been used to inspire terrifying visions of the end times or the rapture, but that is not, in fact, what they are about. Jesus is using hyperbole, startling images to get our attention, not to frighten us, and certainly not to predict the end of time. American novelist Flannery O'Connor once wrote, "To the hard of hearing you shout, and for the almost blind you draw large and startling figures." That's what Jesus is doing this morning. He's shouting, he's drawing startling images, and he says in every way he can, look, listen, don't sleepwalk through your life. God is near. Our second lesson from Paul's letters to the Romans that Ariana read for us this morning reminds us that we already know how to live with this kind of hope. Eugene Peterson paraphrases it this way in the Message: make sure that you don't get so absorbed and exhausted in taking care of all of your day-to-day obligations that you lose track of the time and doze off, oblivious to God. Be up and awake to what God is doing. Don't squander these precious hours in frivolity and indulgence, in bickering and grabbing everything in sight. It is a beautiful exhortation for Advent. Don't get so absorbed and exhausted in your day-to-day obligations that you become oblivious to God. Another way of saying, don't miss the mystery of Christmas. There is, as I've said before in Advent, a difference between waiting for Christmas and waiting for Jesus. If we are merely waiting for Christmas, the season can easily become exhausting. We chase the perfect gift to prove that we are the perfect parent or child or spouse or friend. We can justify doing more, spending more, being more, as though that will lead to a happy ending. Waiting for Christmas this way often leaves us burned out and exhausted. But if we are waiting for Jesus, and if we take seriously the call to live as people awake to God's presence, Advent can look very different. We slow down. We enter into silence. We quiet our minds and our bodies. We pay attention to each other, to our own longings, and to where God is moving in the world. So when we step into this first week of Advent, let us do together what the church has always done. Slow down, pay attention, and practice hope. Not the wishful, fingers crossed kind, but the deep, steady kind that trusts God is already moving toward us. And may we stay awake to the mystery breaking in all around us, quietly, tenderly, sometimes in ways that we do not expect. And may this season help us come close once again to the Holy One who chooses to be born among us. Amen.